one piece of advice I will give is that if you want something, ask for it. Don't expect anybody to give it to you.
So, Maheen, we have you with us at Jefferson High School. In and out, maybe we'll have some Benton Central students here and there. I don't think they're going to be in as extensively as they have in the past, but you have two high schools here. One of them, very diverse. I think only 50% of the student population is of white color, but 70% is below the poverty line. So that's a little bit indicative. The other high school is pretty rural. Yeah, I'm not sure where you hail from in Minnesota, but like, I assume that there's a little bit of correlation there.
Yeah, not the most diverse state, as you can imagine. Not many people venture up to be cold that often, that long.
Right.
So when I went to Purdue was really one of my first experiences of being around other people of color. So very interesting.
Yep.
I'm like right on the verge of a sneeze too, so forgive me. If anybody has any tricks to get me to stop, that would be helpful.
Let me try that one more time. Okay. So the way that we have this set up is we're going to do my questions, and my questions are like, I only have 4 prepared, and they usually just meander around the entire question, and they're just sort of chronological. What did high school look like? What did college look like? What did the career pathway look like? And then after that, we'll give you a chance for some sort of general remarks for the students at the high school level. We have a couple at the senior level, a couple at the junior level, so at the decision points. And then after that, it'll be student questions. And yeah, those are the ones that will be, the audience can answer those as well, or ask those as well.
Awesome.
So question number 1, what did high school look like for you? So a couple of other participants have talked about, I didn't really get into any engineering classes, did more chemistry, that sort of thing. How did your pathway to FYE at Purdue start? Like, how did...
Oh gosh, FYE, first year engineering, takes me back. So high school, I didn't really have any sort of STEM classes or STEM related classes that were called that specifically. I was just very good at math and physics. I hated chemistry. I still hate chemistry. Biology was okay. Both of my parents are doctors, so I didn't have much of a choice but to be good at that one. But besides that, I was involved in our soccer team, so I had a sport. I also was in choir, so did some singing. I was also on the high school speech team, which was a great thing for me because I love to talk, so that definitely helped those skills. But as far as engineering and STEM classes, I had a business 101 class I took, but there was nothing specifically engineering related. So I just liked calculus and physics, and that's where it led me.
Perfect. So why did you decide engineering?
To be an engineer. So first choice for my parents would have been that I be a doctor, and I didn't want to do that. So second choice, I was sitting around the table at a college advisor that I used in high school, and she just kind of asked me, what are you good at without trying too hard? And that was always math and physics. Those just made perfect sense in my brain. So then that kind of led the conversation to maybe engineering is a good idea. I had no clue what type of engineering. So that's why first year engineering was good, because you got introduced to a lot of them.
Good
But
or bad?
good and bad, I didn't like the chemistry, I'll still say that. But yeah, so just kind of talking with a college counselor about my skills and what I wanted to do just led me to engineering. It was a great choice. I love it. So it worked out well.
Good. Carlos, Alex, it'll probably just be better over there. I'm not sure what's going on with that screen. Yeah. Do you remember our second semester Tarfidi?
First year engineering?
First year engineering.
I mean, I remember it being quite challenging. I'll use that word.
So some good conversations with the counselor. I think that's hard anymore. Like a lot of, I mean, at Penn Central, it was definitely hard to have meaningful conversations where it's like, yes, you're allowed to get out of Benton County.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And like here at Jeff, I've had some good interactions with the counselors as a teacher, and they're having good conversations with the kids. Sometimes it's just a little bit, probably shouldn't be talking about that sort of thing with these students, but be that as it may. So you complete first year engineering and you go to industrial engineering.
Yes.
That's correct. We actually had a substitute 2 weeks ago. Her name was Olivia. She came from, so she's graduating. She graduated last week, I guess it was. And so she was just looking for fillers before her job started. And she came from industrial engineering as well.
Oh, awesome.
Her father is Black, her mother is white. And so it was interesting conversations about that and how she felt a lot more comfortable once she got into industrial engineering as opposed to FYE. Like,
yeah,
and
I can see
I've known
that.
that you've had such a good time, at least through your LinkedIn posts, that you've kind of really enjoyed at least a few of your professors in industrial engineering. So what is that mentorship connection level like within industrial engineering?
Yeah, I think
close-knit is it?
it's definitely a large group of us. Every class through each semester who goes through the core classes is quite big. I would say just like having that rapport with a few professors that you could ask questions to. I didn't really know what an industrial engineer would do, like a day in the life of one, until I had those conversations with them. But yeah, industrial engineering was very, very inviting as opposed to a few of the other engineerings that I was in nuclear engineering for like one semester. Not my thing. Remember, I said the whole chemistry thing. I did not know how much chemistry was in that. But definitely really inviting. Everybody is willing to help each other, or at least that was my experience. So it was a good change going from first year engineering, which is admittedly more difficult than it should be, to some place where they're actually trying to help you grow. So I loved it.
Awesome. Yeah, so I went to mechanical engineering, and I just feel like it's one of those where the professors come in and go, oh, we have an overwhelming crowd of people that we need to sift through, and it's still just like an extension of FYE.
Yeah.
So yeah, college went by well. Was that a positive experience all the rest of those 2.5, 3 years?
It was definitely challenging. Like everybody is gonna have to learn how to manage your own time and make your own friends, make your own food. I came from a family who made my dinner every night. So doing that was definitely interesting. My mom cut my nails for a long time too, so learning how to cut my own nails was definitely a tough one. But college was good. A lot of learning as far as book learning, yes, of course, but learning about yourself too. and, you know, causes that you care about, or, you know, getting involved in different clubs and activities. It was a really good experience. I look back on it and I'm so thankful I chose Purdue. I drove to Purdue with my dad to check it out for college tours. And I remember thinking, this is so boring. Every building looks the exact same.
Right.
Like, what is the point of this? And we were there during that 10 minutes where you like switch classes, is when we were driving up Slater Hill, or like right by Slater. And I remember thinking, there are so many people here. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do here. And then I ended up choosing it because it was a really wonderful engineering program, and I couldn't pass up on that opportunity just because I was overwhelmed with the amount of students, or I didn't like the choice of brick that they had chosen for their buildings. And I'm really thankful. It was a great decision.
Yeah. Perfect. How, so I want to sort of do a little bit of a side road and talk about networking just like a little bit on the college
Okay.
level. So how did networking affect college friendships? So making your own friends is difficult, you know, as an adult and as someone who has to navigate the dramatic waters in some cases. So at what point did you how did that experience look like for you? So we'll have kids who leave high school and they're in their own waters. How did finding a support network, a work network,
Yeah.
how did that work?
So college is really set up, and I wish I had taken advantage of it more, but it is really set up to give you spaces where you can find friendships and support for just about any sort of group or organization. You could pretty much find people who are completely the same as you or completely different than you, and you can be friends with either. So I think taking advantage of those clubs, and I will say it now, making friends when you're out of school is much, much, much harder than making friends when you're in school. So take advantage of the fact that you are around so many people your own age. You'll just never get an opportunity like that again. I cannot believe I am so old that I'm telling people to enjoy college like that. But definitely join clubs, live in the dorms, I think was a great thing that I got to do.
Yes.
Because I made a lot of good friends just like hopping over to my friend who I lived in like this like first year engineering community. I think I signed up for the global engineering one. So a lot of the friends that you were in class with, you lived by.
Right.
So that was really nice and helpful. And being part of a big college with engineering being one of the largest schools there, you can always find somebody to help you with your homework or distract you if you need one. So I think just taking advantage of all the opportunities that you have there will grow your network and your support system organically. So I loved it.
It's good to hear. So you graduate from college, and did you have a job lined up? I know you went to Dick's Sporting Goods.
Yeah, so I didn't have a job lined up right after school. I went back to my parents' house, but after, you know, having the independence of college, I made it my life's mission to get out of there as quickly as possible once again. So I wholeheartedly want to suggest everybody get a LinkedIn account, because that's how I found every single job that I have ever had. I sat on LinkedIn every night and applied to every job that I could see in a cool company, a cool space. I obviously come from a long line of doctors, so I wanted something in the medical field. And so I would just go and I would filter the jobs by posted in the last 24 hours. I'd apply to all of the ones I liked, and I would do that every single night. So I had, you know, like 6 or 7 interviews come up. And then I eventually picked a job at a very small startup called LTS Health. which was a laboratory consulting firm. So you know how everybody has to get COVID tests now. Those tests go somewhere, and then they test them and give you the results back. So my job there was to help the processes be more efficient. That's pretty much what industrial engineers do in any space.
Right.
So I enjoyed being at a startup, kind of like being with just a few people, but then I wanted to move on to, you know, something bigger. And something that people might not tell you, or something I didn't realize, was the importance of a job having good benefits. So, you know, like health insurance and a 401k plan. When I was working at that startup, I was obviously young and naive, and I didn't realize that not having those would actually end up costing me more than if I were to look for a job that had those. So that's kind of my first experience out of college. A lesson I would definitely share is make sure that your job has really good benefits for whatever, engineering, not engineering. Benefits are really, really important. So that was kind of how I got my first job, was just LinkedIn. Every night my parents are like, "What are you doing?" It's like, I'm applying to jobs so I don't have to stay here anymore.
Trying to get out.
Exactly.
Well, I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, even within the space. So right after college, I subbed for a little bit, as I was trying to figure out who would accept me. You know, like,
Yeah.
I was at that point emotionally where I was just like, please just give me somewhere.
Yeah.
And found a space and didn't love it, but figured I would make the most of it for the time being. And then it just, you know, devolved. And yeah, you bring us some good tips. The 24 hours one is very good, because, you know, they're wanting people. If they're posting it recently, then that means they're wanting people to fill those positions. And within the space that you're looking for. So
yeah. So I would really just every night, the last 24 hours, and whatever was posted in the last 24 hours, and I would do all across the country. And it's a really fun way. If you apply to jobs and you get an interview somewhere, they will most likely fly you out there.
Mhm.
So that's always fun too. And just the experience of being able to talk to people about, you know, your skills and what you do, really, you know, perfecting your resume is super important. That's one of the things that I spent a lot of time doing. My husband was just applying for new jobs too, and I was the one who helped him with his resume. Thank you. But so I've always told my parents and my family, I want to make my own mistakes. I refuse to learn from yours, because I want to make them myself, because maybe I can do it better than you guys did. And I think that's something really important. So make your own mistakes, but don't keep making the same mistakes.
Right.
Learn from them.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's my other piece of advice, is go ahead, make mistakes, because that's inevitable, but you've got to learn from them.
I have a mentor who's, one of his mottos is, the only bad mistake you make is the one that you never learn from.
That's a good one. I like that.
So startup to subsequent jobs, how did that trickle?
Yeah, so I wanted to work for kind of a larger company and a bit of a different space. So I, again, was looking at LinkedIn for jobs. One thing nobody tells you about that's a little challenging is applying for jobs while you already have a job. And how to handle, you know, I have an interview this day, but I still have to go to work. And I haven't told anybody at work that I'm looking for a new job. So it was a lot of sitting in my car at lunch breaks, doing interviews on the phone. But so I really wanted to get into the distribution space, which I don't know if everybody knows what that is, but like any store or Amazon or anything, you have to fulfill orders. And they're either done in warehouses or distribution centers. Warehouses are normally more for storage. Distribution centers Items come in, then items go out to wherever they need to go. So at Dick's Sporting Goods, I was the head industrial engineer at their Atlanta distribution center. And I just helped make sure that their processes were moving along, improving processes so that they could get trucks out the door faster. And so that was a really good place to learn and get some experience. I was housed in the distribution center, so I would be there in the thick of things every day. And it was a really good learning experience, and I got to be part of a company with benefits, with an HR department, and learn kind of how that operates. And then I just was feeling like my skills were a little underutilized there. And one thing that I found really important is that while I was just out of school for about a year and I was like the head industrial engineer at this branch, I didn't have anybody to learn from, which is really important when you're just starting out. Is you need somebody who can say, did you think about this? What about this? Do you know this? And train you and get you to the point where you can be making those larger decisions. So that was something that I really searched for. And within another year, I switched to my current job. So I was a job hopper for a bit there, which people will tell you that it's a bad thing and stay at your job for 3 years before you move on to the next one. I don't subscribe to that policy, because I think if you're unhappy somewhere, there are so many jobs out there and jobs that are willing to take you. And if you're not happy, go change what you're not happy about. You know me, I am never one to stick in a place where I'm not happy.
Right.
So they told me not to switch jobs so quick, and I did it anyways. It was the best decision I could have made, because I absolutely love the job I have now. Yeah. So I got that same job by LinkedIn. I actually got a message from a recruiter, and once you've been in an industry for a little bit, you'll get a lot of messages from recruiters. I don't read them very often, but this one was one that grabbed my interest, and I replied to the recruiter. They had actually asked me for a different job, but I perused the website and found one I liked more, and I said I would rather do this one if you can connect me with the right person. One piece of advice I will give is that if you want something, ask for it. Don't expect anybody to give it to you. So I found the job I wanted. I said I was willing to fly out for an interview. They flew me out for an interview. I talked to 8 people, and I got a call the next day saying, you got the job. Would you like to move to Chicago? And I said, of course. So the job that I have now is still in the distribution space. I am one of 50 engineers here. So I do a lot of building construction projects, accuracy, so making sure that the right orders get to the right customers, just a lot of configurations with different databases here to change things at the distribution centers. What Medline does, and it's really interesting that I got in this space in November 2019 because the pandemic hit in March, is that we supply medical supplies to, we are the largest manufacturer and distributor of medical supplies in the country. So all of the PPE that you see, some portion of it is probably either made or distributed by Medline. If you go to hospitals, and you guys are in Indiana, so you're very close to our head operation, so you will probably see Medline products. My job is to make sure that our customers get their orders accurately and on time. So whatever I can do to help do that is what I do, and I love it. I have lots of people to learn from. I say I don't know about 1 million times a day, which I think is a great thing. That is another piece of advice, guys. I'm giving out nuggets of wisdom. But whenever I'm asked in an interview, what do you think your best quality is? I always say that I am very willing to say I don't know. So if somebody asks me a question and I don't know what they're talking about or what to do next, I will say I don't know, and I will seek out the right answer. So say you don't know if you don't know something. That's how you learn.
Absolutely. I want to go back to the underutilized aspect. So you were the head honcho operational and industrial engineer. and not having somebody to learn from. And I think
Yeah.
that it's also important that even if you have that position, like even if you have that mentor in title, it's just make sure that the relationship is there.
Yeah.
I had at the position that I was working at, I was like I was the only new product quality engineer, but I still had a boss who had all these ideas about what he wanted out of it. Um, but he had his own projects, and so anytime I would toss him an idea, he'd be like, "Yep, sounds good, do it."
Yep,
Like
exactly.
that's not helpful for me.
Yeah.
I don't know if
So
it's
I
right.
found it really important to have people that could teach me. I want to learn more before I go and make mistakes. But when you tell somebody I don't know the answer to your question and there's nobody to go and ask the question to, then you're just kind of stuck. And that's how I was feeling at my job there. So the move was really good. Now I have a plethora of people to, there's like more than enough people to ask questions to. And I find it really, really important, especially when you're, how old am I? 26?
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
So, so how often do you feel dumb? Because, part of the I don't know aspect is getting over that hurdle of I don't want to appear dumb. So how often does that actually come through?
you know, Not that often. I have just I've always been the kind of person to say I don't know when I don't know something. I think especially now people really respect that much more than pretending to know. Like, feeling dumb is part of being a new person too. Like,
Mhm.
I've only worked at Medline a year and a half. So there is so much that I don't know. And I was told when I first joined, you're not going to know what's really going on until about your year mark. And that was one of the first things I was told is you're just going to be drinking from a water hose, from a fire hose, whatever that saying is, for like a year. So feel free to say I don't know, because we all know that you don't know.
Right.
So it's good to have those people who will encourage you to feel dumb, and who'll tell you it's okay to feel dumb because we have all felt dumb and we have been there. So as long as you're willing to ask for help, people will help you. And I think that holds true for a lot of jobs.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to go back and sort of tie the college experience of having support systems and college being constructed in a way where that's possible.
Yeah.
At the three that you've talked about, how have those structures been either absent or in place? Any advice to your employers or to the employee to sort of help nurture that space?
For like support at work.
Yeah.
So my company doesn't particularly do this, but my husband's does, and he was telling me about how they have all these different Slack groups. Now, I don't use Slack, so if y'all use Slack, good for you. But just kind of with different things that you're passionate about, you can join like the diversity Slack group or things like that. My company has a lot of different like trainings and seminars, and they're very in tune with mental health. So they give you a lot of free resources. They just emailed us a couple days ago saying they had like gotten us an app where you can talk to a therapist for free. Just use their code that they give you. So I think it's really important, especially in interviews and when you're looking at potential jobs, is to find those jobs that help set up support systems for you. Because if we didn't have that, and I didn't have, people who were willing to guide me along, I think I would be really lost here. So a really good question to ask in your interviews is, what support systems do you have at this job? For new people of color, women in a space that don't really have women. People who are being interviewed will love getting challenged like that. So that's a good question to put in the back of your brain.
Perfect. This will be my last one before moving on, and maybe it will bring up some other questions. We'll see. Has your race or background affected any professional encounters, and if so, how? If one of my students were to run into an issue where they were discriminated professionally, what would be your advice?
Yeah, so I actually have a really interesting story about this. I was thinking about it the other day, but so like I was saying, in my first job, we didn't have any benefits. So no 401k, no health insurance, all of that. And my friend, who was also hired about the same time, her job was to look into how this company could set up those benefits. So we had a, what would I call him? A financial advisor of some sort. I don't know what they're called. But he came in to talk about 401ks and beneficiaries and all of those words that you're supposed to know, but nobody tells you the definition of.
Right.
So a beneficiary of your 401k is if something were to happen to me, and I have money in my 401k, it's who that money goes to. And so I'm sitting in a room, and it's myself and two white women, one white male, and a African American girl my age. And this person is talking, giving good information, and then he looks at me and he says, "Oh, and if your parents are overseas, they can still be beneficiaries. Are your parents in where are your parents?" And I was like, "My parents are up the street in Minnesota." But it's some of those things that's probably like the most recent and probably the most blatant kind of, I guess, like racial bias I run into.
Right.
As far as, the application process and like interviews and things, I haven't really seen it as far as race. And that's probably because engineers look a lot like me. But as far as being a woman in engineering, that's one thing that is different, right? You don't see many. I mean, I guess it's starting to be a little bit bigger now, but as I was saying, there's about 50 engineers. There's only 3 girls. So it's definitely interesting when the guys are planning an outing for the group. It happened this morning where they're like, "Oh, we have 3 extra slots for the golf tournament. You girls want to go?" There's other girls going. So it's just little things like that. But in the interview process, I think I don't think there's really been anything that I could say besides those little anecdotes. I'm trying to think, and there's not much. I really did end up at a company that values diversity. We have a director of diversity and inclusion that was hired last year, and they fall under the HR department. So they're quite active in making sure that every kind of difference is celebrated at Medline. So it's a wonderful company to work for, definitely diverse.
Perfect. So with those experiences and maybe the experiences you've also heard, have you had good advice told to you and maybe you want to pass on, or are you able to collect some good advice over the years?
Yeah, I would just think that as far as, discrimination and bias, everybody talks about these internal biases that we have, right? And they're those ones that you don't know you have, or if somebody asked you, are you biased towards it, you wouldn't say yes because you don't think you are. And there's some really interesting tests you can go take to see if you have any sort of internal bias. It's very interesting. But those things are always going to exist, and they're always going to, you're never going to be able to, it's not like a tattoo, you can't really see it on somebody. So I would just say, be confident in who you are, and, be good at what you do, and be proud of yourself and show that, because then those biases will fall away. I just think if you really are, yourself, and you really try really hard, you'll get as far as you can go, and nobody can stop you. I believe that. That's my advice.
I love that. I love it. All right, so so as we shift into the questions part, do you have general remarks to either you could frame it to yourself as a high schooler, but to our diverse group of students here at Jeff?
My high school self, gosh, you know, looking back, I really wish I would have taken more advantage of a lot of the groups that were at college. And I wish I would have, you know what, there's not much I would change. I would say I would get involved in a lot more groups, but I think I learned a lot, and that was the most important part. You guys can tell I've probably made more mistakes than I'm leading on right now. But learning from them and just going through the process and enjoying yourself while you're at it. Like, smile some more, I guess. Don't stress so much because it'll all work out. All the cliche things you can read on, like, what do the kids use these days? I was gonna say Tumblr, but does anybody know what that is? Probably not.
Yeah.
But yeah, just don't take yourself too seriously. It'll all work out.
Perfect. It did lead me to one more question before I get to the students' audience's questions. What can I do as a teacher of my diverse body of students?
Yeah, I think, you know what? Research and education is really important. So I would say, you know, read articles from reputable sources, share those, share opinions on both sides, let your students know that you're, you know, you're interested and you're invested and you're really doing the work to understand what they are passionate about. So I would definitely suggest that. My sister and I were one of two out of the whole school. I would say there were maybe 4 Muslim students. And looking back, I wish, you know, my teachers and my principals and vice principals and all of that would have taken some time to say, okay, you're different, and I want to learn about what makes you different. And you know, I am sure they're also smart and they can tell you great places to read and learn more. So ask questions. That's my advice.
All right, so we usually have a student do this, but the student who's here with us has just been, he's a rock star, and I'd rather just not overload him.
Okay.
So these don't have a particular order of which I like or which not. Some of these have been absorbed into the questions that we've already asked. Do you think that your profession will grow in the coming years?
You know, I would hope so. As I was reading over these questions last night, that was the one that I said I hope so. If I could pick, I would say yes. I feel very passionate about the industry that I'm in, and as you know, a newer person and a younger person, you know, I talk to people, you know, throughout the day who've been at the same company for the last 14, 15, 22, 30 years. Finding something that you're good at that nobody else like wants to be good at, or you know, something that can really make you stand out is what I think can help you grow. So the more you learn, the more you grow, but try and find something within your job that you're passionate about, and that passion will carry you through. So fingers crossed, I hope so.
Jose, if you are okay with it, what is the scariest part of your profession?
So the scariest part, I'd say, is that I can sit at my desk and I can change things happening at a distribution center in California, like how they're picking orders, how they're packing orders. It's a bit more complicated than I can explain now, but sure, I change things around there. And if, you know, I happen to make a mistake, it's not that it can't be reversed. It could just, you know, affect customers, and there could be a domino effect. So that's probably the scariest job, is changing the way people operate from over here, and, you know, keep my fingers crossed. that's one of the places that I'm very willing to say I don't know. Also, I'm willing to like look dumb instead of mess something up and then have to look dumb anyways. So that's definitely the scariest part, is changing things.
Yeah. Yeah. So how does being an operational engineer work under COVID pretenses, working from home? How many Zoom meetings do you have a day? What is
Gosh,
your workload
a
look
lot. So when the pandemic first started, it it wasn't it wasn't the biggest change, because we would sit at our desks and use our computers. We have about 45 different distribution centers that we kind of help along the way or talk to throughout the day. So that part didn't change so much. The work that we do, what really changed is that we can't go travel and, have kickoff meetings for projects, or if a branch is, struggling with some of their accuracy, I can't go and look around. We've found some creative ways to get around that, like carrying your laptop around while you walk around to show me. We have lots of Zoom meetings. My company is invested in, some new technology to help us. It's been a little lonely, but that's okay. And I actually really do like working from home. I think it gives balance. It gives you some, independence, but I'm ready to also, travel around and get to see different branches. So it's been interesting. Lots of Zoom meetings. I think it's crazy that I stare at my computer all day and think that I'm talking to different people, because if you took a time lapse of me, I'm just talking at a computer all day.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, it's been a big change. But I think our company has been really, flexible, and they've really adapted. So I hope some things stick around from what we've changed now.
Yeah.
And my dogs love it. They're sleeping over there, so that's a good thing too. I don't like making my own lunch, I'll tell you that. I liked it when I had somebody else to make my lunch for me, but there you go.
Yep. This one is a double, so we can just combine these two.
Okay.
So what makes you want to wake up every day for work and go? And the lead up to that, do you lose any sleep trying to do your job?
Yeah, so I think working for a company that you really care about what they do, obviously I really am passionate about making sure that people get the right medical supplies that they need. There's obviously a huge trickle effect to getting them the medical supplies. You're helping, save lives. That gets me up in the morning, and I just really like who I talk to and what I do throughout the day. Losing sleep, I definitely get stressed. I once told my supervisor that I had a bit of capacity to do more, which I think is important, that if you have time to do more, you say it, because people like that, and drive and passion. And then you get loaded up with projects. So it definitely got more. But I get stressed, but I don't think I lose sleep, because of the first part of the question. I really enjoy work, and I enjoy the challenge of work. And it took me some time to be in a place where I could say that. If you asked me maybe like 2 years ago, I wouldn't have said the same thing. But see, I told you guys, if you don't like where you are, you go and change it, because you'll find something that works. This is an example of that. So I don't think I lose sleep, but I definitely get stressed out. So have good ways of getting rid of stress. That would be a good piece of advice. Go for a run, walk your dogs, get another puppy. That was my way of doing it. So we're about to be a puppy number 3, if I can make that happen.
I think that college is a very good time for figuring out what those stress relieving activities are.
Yeah, find something that gets your mind off of whatever you're working on, whether it be running or chess or reading or religion or writing, whatever it is for you. Find that thing that helps you relieve stress, because it only gets a little bit worse. I don't want to scare anybody, but when you start to pay your own bills and you have to work, you definitely need good stress relievers. So figure it out now.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Well, I think with all of our back and forth previously, I think we've covered all the questions that were listed out by the students.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share with us?
Feel free to find me on LinkedIn. If you guys want, I am happy to look over your resume. I'm happy to chat about like interview questions. I love giving mock interviews. Like I love asking people questions. So maybe I'll interview you one day, Josh. And we can do it for your class. Have they heard all these answers from you?
No.
Okay, exactly. But feel free to add me on LinkedIn. I can send Josh my, I don't know, like my profile name. I don't know. What do they call it on LinkedIn? But and let me know. I want to help. I can help with, applications to college, reading college essays, math questions, whatever. So just find me. I want to be a resource for you guys. I'm very happy to help. So that's my final thoughts.
Perfect. Well, Maheen, thank you so much for being with us. It's been awesome.
Of course. I will talk to you guys maybe later. Maybe. All right. See ya.
Take care.
You too.